there's a whole lot of healing going on. Isn't that good? Yes, whole lot of healing going on. Turn to somebody and tell them, I feel so good that I can hardly stand it. I feel so good that I can hardly stand it. I feel so good I can hardly stand it. Yes. You know, that's one of my favorite affirmations, even though I have to admit that I'm not always there, right? I'm not always in that state of mind or in that state of being, but I want to be. I want to be in that place where I feel so good that I could hardly stand it. So good that I can't contain all the joy that I feel in that moment. We all want to feel good, don't we? Anybody here who does not want to feel good? We all want to feel good. That's natural for us to desire to feel good and to have some good feelings. But as I was working with this message this morning, I began to wonder if there was a difference between feeling good and having a sense of well-being. That if you could choose between feeling good and having that sense of well-being, which one would you choose? Which one would you choose? Because feeling good can be temporary. It may also be sort of situational, meaning that it will change according to whatever is showing up in our lives at the time, which is okay, but I think I would like something a little deeper. I would like to experience something a little more lasting. And so I'm going to go for wellness or well-being. I want to be able to say that it is well with my soul. And I want to mean it. I want to be able to say it is well with my soul. And those of you who are from the old time school know that that's an old spiritual song. But I was thinking I don't want to wait until to have that song sung at my memorial service. Because that's when it's usually sung, right? It's usually how, well done, thou good and faithful servant. And we sing, it is well with my soul. Now, that is one of the songs that I intend to have at my memorial service. But I want to have the experience of it now. I want to know the wellness of my soul right now. I want to live well now, in the now. That's important for me. And so I'm thinking, how do I go about living well? And is that the optimal level that I should be striving for in my being? Because even though living well is great and it's wonderful, being well is better. Being well is slightly better because after all, what good would it do to have the means to live well if you don't have the capacity to enjoy it? Right? You can have the means. I want to live well, but I also want to be able to enjoy it. And so when we think about that, we really want to be well, not just physically either, although that is important. But we want to be well in all levels of our being, spirit, soul, and body. Because that's the nature of our being. We are spiritual beings. We have a soul or a mind or awareness and consciousness, and we have a physical expression. And so we want to be well on all those levels because that is not only what fosters being well, but it also contributes to us having that inner sense of well-being. And there's a slight difference between being well and having that sense of well-being. what's happening inside. And both of those are vital for our spiritual growth. They're necessary for our spiritual unfoldment. Being well and having a sense of well-being. But let's face it, sometimes our inner state of mind gets in the way. Sometimes our inner state, because well-being is about an inner sense of experience, and sometimes our inner state messes with our sense of well-being. And sometimes our inner state of being messes with our physical being, right? Sometimes whatever is going on inside of us has a real effect on what is happening in our outer manifestation, in our bodies, and even in our experiences. And so we've got to look at what does it take, not only to be well, but to have well-being. We're all familiar, hopefully, with the story of the man who was lying by the healing pool in Bethesda. And he had an illness for 38 years. And he was lying there wanting to be healed. And Jesus approaches him. And I'm reading from John chapter 5, verses 2 through 9. And this one is the King James Version. It says, now there in Jerusalem, by the sheep market, a pool, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Bethesda, having 5 porches. And in these lay a great multitude of impotent folk, of blind, halt, withered, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain season into the pool and troubled the water. Whosoever then first, after the troubling of the water, stepped in, was made whole of whatever disease he had. And a certain man there, which had an infirmity 38 years, when Jesus saw him lie there, and he knew how long he had been in that case and in that state, he said to him, wilt thou be made whole? The impotent man answered, Sir, I have no man when the water is troubled to put me into the pool. But while I am coming, another steps down before me. And Jesus said unto him, Rise, take up thy bed and walk. And immediately the man was made whole and took up his bed and walked. Wow. Rise, take up thy bed and walk. But that's not to me, the most powerful statement in this scripture. It's the question, will thou be made whole? Or in plain English, do you want to be well? Do you want to be healed? That's a powerful question. And you would think that the answer would be a resounding yes, I want to be well. Yes, I want to be healed. Yes. But instead, the man offers Jesus an excuse as to why he can't be well or healed. He tells him that he has no one to help him into the pool when the waters are stirred. I want to read this from the version of the book. You know, whenever I do my talk, I got all my Bibles spread out, and I read all of them, because they each say it in a different manner, but I love the way this one says it. So this one says, afterwards, in the city, near the sheep gate, was the pool of Bethesda with 5 covered porches. Crowds of sick people, blind, lame, or paralyzed, lay on the porches. One of the men lying there had been sick for 38 years. When Jesus saw him and knew how long he had been ill, asked him, would you like to get well? I can't, sir, the sick man said, for I have no one to help me in the pool when the water is stirred up, and while I'm trying to get there, someone else always gets in ahead of me. Would you, It's like, well, what had happened was, right? You see, would you like to be well? He says, I can't. Would you like to be healed? I can't. The first thing is, I can't. And if you think you can't, you won't. I can't. And when we use the word can't, we know this now, we are canceling and neutralizing the truth. Right? That's what can't is. I can't. So you are canceling and neutralizing the truth. And so we need to watch what we say. And if we were to think about it, think about ourselves in our life situations, how many times do we offer excuses or come up with excuses to justify our state of mind or our conditions in life? Well, you see, I can't do this because of that. Well, if this hadn't happened, maybe I could have done this. It's always something or someone outside of ourselves that we believe is somehow standing in the way of our good, standing in the way of our blessings. It's something that prevents our healing outside of ourselves. The scripture described in the King James Version the people that were lying around the pool and waiting as impotent folks. And it says that they were blind and paralyzed and crippled. Now, how many times have we been blind to the truth, right? Not able to see things from a spiritual perspective. How often do we have blind spots where we can't see our own activity? We can't see our own actions. We can't hear our own selves. We are blind to the truth. How many times have we suffered paralysis from overanalysis, right? We want to think something to death. We want to analyze it before we take action. I'm going to pray about it, think about it, pray about it some more. I'm going to get the answer from God, but wait a minute, God, let me really think about it. Is this what you're really telling me to do? And we get so involved in it that we can't move forward on the guidance that we get. We're actually then paralyzed. We can even paralyze ourselves with fear. All about the what ifs. Well, what if this happens? And how did that happen? All of a sudden, we're not moving. We're stuck and unable to take action. We're crippled by error thoughts. And so consider this. Consider that metaphysically, those people lying by the pool, the impotent people, they're not really impotent because of their physical conditions, but they are because of their inner feelings of helplessness and powerlessness, hopelessness. They feel themselves to be powerless to help themselves or to even do anything that would change their situations or their circumstances. And so they're just lying around on the porches. Now, there are 5 of them, 5 porches by this pool. The temple had really 5 porches too. And 5 metaphysically represents the 5 senses. So what it says is that they're sort of laying around in the sense world, laying around by what other people say is possible, laying around in the consciousness of what they can see only, or what they can hear, or what they can taste, right? And we know the sense world will fool us if that's the only thing that you are judging life by. Because you can look out here, and if that is your vision, if that is what you are holding to be the truth, you're going to be in trouble. But they're laying around in this consciousness, right? And they're waiting until an angel comes and stirs up the waters. And then the first person into the pool is able to be healed. Well, metaphysically, an angel represents a spiritual thought or a high thought. They are the messengers of God. And Mr. Fillmore defines an angel as this in the Revealing Word. He says that angels are the word of truth, because they're messengers. They're bringing you something, right? They're bringing you the word of truth in which is centered the power of God to overcome all limited beliefs and conditions. That's powerful. The word of truth, which is centered in God, has the power to overcome all limited beliefs and conditions. So when we are stuck in our stuff, laying around in the sense world, getting all caught up in the fear of what society says is or is not possible, we need to have a high thought. We need to be able to have that word of truth, the word of truth, right, to enter into our minds and to stir up some stuff, to stir up our consciousness. The water has multiple meanings. Water is Mr. Fillmore, it can mean several things, and some of them are opposites. According to Mr. Fillmore, again in the revealing word, water can also mean weakness and negativity. Because sometimes, we're so overcome in negativity, we're sort of drowning, in the tides of what's happening. It can also represent a cleansing, a healing, or mental. Water can represent mental potentiality, what's possible. It also can represent the subconscious, because most of the things that happen underwater we can't see. It's below our visual sight. And it also, at times, it can represent life and vital energy. The living waters of truth Jesus spoke about, that carries that message. And so we have to figure out, when we feel like we're submerged in the water, what is that saying? Are we feeling that we're submerged in negativity and we're weak and being swept up by the tides and we have no control? Or are we saying that we're being in the midst of the life energy and the vital energy that's stirring up? What this says is that when we're stuck in those places, when we're stuck in our feelings of helplessness and hopelessness and powerlessness, you must somehow turn to the truth and catch you a high thought. Catch you the word of truth, which has the power to overcome your limiting situation. You've got to let that be stirred up in your mind, stirred up in your consciousness, stirred up in your heart. Because if you can let these words and these thoughts enter in, you open yourself up to the healing possibilities. And what I find interesting is usually when we're down and we're stuck and we're in a place, sometimes people don't come to church. They use that experience to stay home and cover up and to have a pity party and to be by themselves when you need to hear the word of truth. Right? Because that's what's going to stir something in you. That's what's going to awaken the remembrance of who you are and who God is. It's very important. We have to raise our consciousness to wellness. Jesus said it plainly when he simply said, "Rise, take up your bed, and walk." Lift up your consciousness. Lift yourself up from the things that would keep you down, that would keep you stuck, that would keep you asleep to the truth. Because if you're in the bed, you're more than likely asleep. Right? You're asleep to the possibilities that lie before you. Take up your bed and walk, which is to raise your consciousness and move beyond the place where you are to the place where you want to be. And sometimes it feels comfortable to be just laid up in the bed. You got to move from your place of comfort. Some people are comfortable with their illness, comfortable with their condition, comfortable with what's happening in their lives, and feel, I can't do anything about it. Hey, this is the way it is. Everybody's ahead of me, I'm not to blame. Look at my condition. I can't help myself. Life is doing this to me. Pick up your consciousness, your bed, and your place of comfort and walk. Move to where you need to be. Because it's all a matter of consciousness, friends. So the question that you want to ask yourself is this: is it well with your soul? Is it well with your consciousness? Because that's how we interpret the soul and truth, the levels of awareness and consciousness. Is it well with your consciousness? Are you seeing things rightly from a high point of view? Are you seeing it from the truth? Are you holding the right thoughts about health and wellness and wholeness? Are you taking right action and being in an alignment with your spirit and your soul and your body? Are you living right and doing right? I just finished teaching a class based on the teachings of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore's view on health and wholeness, healing and wholeness. And out of that class, I think there were two things that came forth that I think are good for everyone to do. And the first one is that Myrtle Fillmore recommended that we take an inventory of the quality of our threefold nature, which is an inventory of your spirit, your soul or your mind, and your body. And to note where any one of those may be out of alignment. Because, see, some people pay a lot of attention, right? They pay a lot of attention to their mind, to the development of their minds or to their bodies, and very little attention to the spirit. Or you might have people who pay lots of attention to the spirit and very little to their body, or very little to the mind, or vice versa, any number of these. We have to assess the quality of our being, the quality of our nature from those levels of being, from all of those areas. So do an inventory and look and see where you might be out of alignment. In your spirit, in your body, in your mind, where? And then the second thing that we were encouraged to do was then write out a prescription or a plan of action for your life that would bring those three areas into balance. Write out a prescription for your lifestyle, for your daily living, so that your living actually brings about health and wholeness, so that you're operating at the optimal level on all three phases of your being, spirit, soul, and body. One's not out of balance, that they're all in alignment. That's what regeneration is all about. When the spirit, soul, and body are all lined up. So what is the state of your spirit, and what will you do to keep it high? What will you do to keep it stayed on God? Will you pray? Will you meditate? What will you do? Write out your prescription for the maintenance of your spiritual being. And what's the state of your soul or of your mind? Will you work with some affirmations? How will you keep your mind strong? You know, science is saying that you've got to keep the mind active as you get older. You're not going to just sit on the porch and just, Keep the mind going. So what will you do? Will you practice affirmations? Will you read something spiritual every day? What is it that you're going to do? Will you begin to watch your minds and watch your words and watch your thoughts, watch what's coming in and be observant to that? What are you going to do to develop your consciousness for the strengthening of your soul? And what would you do to keep your body well? Will you treat it like it's the living temple of the living God? Will you feed it well, rest it, exercise it, pamper it? What will you do to keep the body? This is a prescription that you get to write. What's the divine plan and the prescription that you'll write for your well-being? See, God has already placed within you that divine and perfect pattern for your spiritual wholeness. It's already within you. That Christ's Spirit is already within you as perfect expression, as a spiritual being, a divine being, already complete and whole and well with everything that's needed. But you have to bring that forth. You have to bring that out so that your life begins to reflect the essence of the Christ. What will you do? What's going to be your prescription? You've been given everything you need to live well. But it's up to you to be well. It's up to you to be well. So what will you do? And to be well, I love it. I went to the dictionary to find out, just to look up the word well. And this is what Webster says, to be well. To be well is to be prosperous or well off. I like that. Or to be in good standing or favor. It means to be healthy. And this is one of my favorites. It also means to have a cause for thankfulness. Right? To be well. And then well-being, I looked that up, and well-being says that it is a state of being happy, healthy, or prosperous. And I want all of that. I want to be well and to have that inner state of well-being. So here's some things, some statements from the scripture that you can use to kind of help you achieve well-being and being well. Jesus said often, your faith has made you well. Your faith has made you whole. So develop your faith in God. The psalmist said, a cheerful heart is good medicine for the soul. So be positive, cheerful. And we're also told in Isaiah, in quietness and in trust shall be your strength. Find time to be quiet. And it said also that thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. Keep your mind stayed on God, stayed on the truth, because peace precedes healing. And last, we're told, I came that they might have life and have it more abundantly. And so we're meant to experience, to demonstrate, to dwell in, and to have an abundant life, to be happy, healthy, whole, and prosperous. But it's up to us. We remember that life is God's gift to us, but what we do with it, what? Is our gift to God. So let us live well, and more importantly, let us be well. Blessings. Blessings. Namaste.